guys, welcome to another episode of the Hog Father and Chicken Daddy Show.
That is not what this is called. It is the Arkansas Homesteading Podcast. My name's Brian from Fuller Homestead.
And I'm Shane from the Low Dollar Blue Collar Homestead.
And on this episode, we are going to be talking to Fox Hill Farms. Samantha and Doug are going to be joining us to discuss the topic about skills that every homesteader should have.
But before we do that, we thought we'd do as we do and go over our skills that we think you should have.
So skills that everyone needs on the homestead. My first one is going to be budgeting. As you've heard already in our series, we have several homesteaders that bemoan the fact that they didn't save enough when they first started homesteading, or they went in so much at the beginning, buying, and they were like, that probably wasn't a good idea. So having the skill of knowing your income versus your outcome and how to make all that work in with the dreams that you have in your head about these great things that you're gonna do, budgeting would be my first skill that you should have. And as a side note, there are really some great books that can help you do that. There's one book in particular called The Farmer's Office that I really enjoy. It's a little more in-depth. It's probably for larger farms rather than small homesteads, but there's great life lessons there. And then there's another book called The Frugal Homesteader that is one of my favorite. Doesn't talk a ton about budgeting, but definitely tells you how to get resources for cheaper than just full price.
Now, and I was gonna ask, would you say with that on budgeting, that counts as going in, seeing what you have that produces and the return is good as well, or your feed costs and everything else, or just with your startup? And
I would say both. I do see where you're going with that. And yeah, I mean, the problem that I see is that on a total homestead or a farm, I don't think that you have to narrow it down to, okay, my chickens pay for themselves, so I'm gonna let them stay. Or my pigs pay for themselves, I'm gonna let them stay. Because I think on the farm, you're gonna have higher yield on certain things. So I'm more, I guess I lean more to say, look at your entire farm, don't look at the specifics. Because if at the end of the day, I look at my total expense for the total farm and my total return, I'm not so concerned, that one is not doing as well. And I know there's gonna be budgeting people that's gonna watch this and go, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. But there's just better rates of return on certain things. And so I'm gonna look at the farm as a whole, because I think if you start looking at individuals, you'll cut stuff that's still bringing in aspects of income, but just maybe not as much.
Well, no, and I agree with that, because we have ducks, and our ducks do not pay for themselves whatsoever. They're supported by our jobs and our chickens, but they're nice to have around. My wife enjoys them, so they stay.
Yeah, and I think that's a healthy way to look at it, because everything, look, we've got to make a living, right? We've got to provide food for our families and all of that kind of stuff, but there is some enjoyment that you get out of it, even if it's not something that's just bringing you a great rate of return.
And my first skill that I would say that is essential for me, at least in homesteading, is the skill of bartering. Because at the Low Dollar Blue Collar Homestead, we repurpose so much. I've got fences and buildings built out of pallets, and I have a bathtub for a duck water pond.
Cool.
But so much costs, and it only gets worse with tariffs and everything else. Things are expensive. I needed a 50-gallon drum to store feed in, and Brian needed some help with something, some labor, so I traded a strong back for a 50-gallon drum.
And if I'd have known the actual strength of the back, it may have been a 45-gallon drum, but it turned out that that's what I promised.
But that's a big thing. And not even with that, you were, I think we talked about this in the actual episode, but when you were up, was it Hardy? Where were you at that you traded?
Oh, yeah, it was, I don't remember if it was, Yellville. In Yellville. Yeah, I had to, I needed a place to stay because, well, it's going to be in the interview. Are we going to leave it in there? We may edit this whole part out. I'm not sure yet. But yeah, I needed a place to stay for the night. I wasn't planning on staying that night. I was going to go back home, but when I found out I needed a place to stay, and someone traded me some chickens and some rabbit meat for a place at their Airbnb. That's when I knew I had made it in homesteading.
And I feel like that's a lost art. The ability to barter or to trade, or that, listen, I don't have money, but I have this and you need this.
Absolutely.
So let's come to an agreement and see what we can work out.
Yeah, and we were talking before we started recording, and I think that in most of the United States, that's something we just don't do ever. In other countries, it's commonplace to barter. And the more that I'm in homesteading / farming, the more I realize that's kind of commonplace among us. But if you're just now getting into homesteading, you may not have that skill yet. So I think it's great. And when you mentioned that, I thought, I wish I had thought of that one, because that's a good one. I'm about to look at my list, hang on. So this next This next one that we're going to talk about, we actually are both sharing, but it is the skill of building. And when I first moved out here, my building experience was limited. Basically, I had done a few little things around our house in Texas, building lean-tos and things like that. But now I have to build pig shelters and goat barns and chicken houses and roosting bars and whatever. So I would even narrow it down to this. And this isn't original to me. Someone else told me this. Learn how to build a box. And then once you build a box, you just build bigger boxes for whatever you want to, because that's every building, every structure is basically a box.
Every pen, every water trough, every feeder, it's a box.
Yeah. And so when I was put simply like that, it wasn't quite as intimidating, because now I view everything of what size box is this goat shelter going to be and what size box is this going to be. So it's a lot easier for me.
Now, nobody says your box has to be square.
Because ours aren't.
So you don't have to be a master craftsman or a carpenter, but you should have the basic knowledge on how to put together what you need. From structures, you should be able to build 4 walls and a roof with some kind of slant to shed rainwater, and it needs to at least last and not fall so that you're not out there every season making repairs.
And there's going to be some basic tools you obviously need with this. That could go back into your budgeting and bartering to get some of these things. But when you start building, just realize that it's not as intimidating as maybe even I thought it was. Like, I just didn't, my wife and I were having this conversation the other day. Someone came over and asked me if I'd be interested in doing a particular thing on their property. And I said, you know, there was a time in my life where if someone had asked me that, I'd immediately said, that's not me, man. That's not me. And my wife said, but you're not that guy anymore. Like, you've built enough stuff where there's some competence. So all of these things that we're talking about, if you don't have them right now, we're not talking about a skill that you're born with, because that is not a skill. That is a God gift. And so these are things that you can actually learn.
I went from being a basic handyman to I can build structures now. Now, I wouldn't hire me to build a house for you,
Same.
but I would build a house that I would live in. Yeah, if I absolutely had to. So my third skill that every homesteader should know is patience, because here's the thing: Rome was not built in a day.
That's what I heard.
And neither is your homestead. You are not going to wake up one day and you have 10 different kinds of animals and your garden is just blooming when you did it yesterday. It's not going to happen. These things take time. Plants take time to grow. Animals take time to grow and produce. It's a long process of sitting and thinking, wow, this is eating money. This is killing me. I'm not going anywhere. And then it magically happens one day. You see it and you're like, wow, I've got food. I've got animals. This is producing this. I'm okay. I'm there. This is paying off. And I feel like patience is a virtue. Not everybody has it. Sometimes I lose it myself and I get a little edgy, but if you can just take the time and realize this is not going to happen by itself, it's not going to happen overnight, you'll go so far with it.
And we've talked about this, I think, on every episode thus far, but seeing stuff on YouTube and Instagram can really hit you in the feels because of what you don't have. And you'll start seeing these people that have been doing this for 10, 15 years, and you're like, well, what in the world? And if I'm just brutally upfront and honest, sometimes when I look at potential interviews for people, I get a little intimidated just about the interview, because they're so far further down the road than I am, that I'm like, ooh, man, do I really want to do that? Because I don't feel like I'm in the same league, which kind of leads me into my third one, which is the skill of being teachable and being someone who can teach. So there's something about homesteaders that I find about our independence, wanting to do everything on our own, that we're not always willing to listen to a lot of people. And it amazes me, the people that have even called me, and I think maybe you've gotten some of these same things, like, hey, I just had a question about this with chickens. I had a question about this, and I'm like, I don't know, I feel comfortable being that guy. But being able to ask those questions, want to learn, and then to teach them and pass them along to someone else.
And wanting to learn is a big thing. Somebody told me one time that if you can't teach somebody something, they can't go anywhere in life, because the day that you stop learning, the day that you stop living. There is at no point, I learn new things every day, like how to work with certain people. It works out. But if you're not teachable, then what are you actually doing? You're wasting time.
True.
Because if you already know how to do it, then you would have already done it. That's a huge part.
Yeah. So in with that, passing it along, I think there seems to be a fear among certain people that we're losing a lot of knowledge. And I mean, it's not like this is a brand new thing in 2025. People have been saying this for a while. We're losing the knowledge that our ancestors had and the people behind us. But in the times that we live in, where there seems to be more fear about what's going to happen to our food supply, what's going to happen to the prices of everything, knowing these skills seems to be at least more accessible, but more wanted. Like, people are wanting to learn more. So that's exciting in our homesteading community. So take advantage of that. The people are out there wanting to teach, to get this knowledge, keep it going. And it doesn't happen in the same way, right? Like, you can go read some old books of people, like the Foxfire books of how they lived back then. And you're like, wow, it's great that they were able to do that with an axe, but guess what? I have a chainsaw now. And so you can update some of those things, but just knowing those skills, being able to be taught, is huge.
So, that being said, without further ado, we'd like to introduce you to Doug and Samantha from Fox Hill Farm.
All right, guys, here we are with Sam and Doug, and we are talking about, well, I tell you what, we're going to get into the theme here in a second, but first, let you guys introduce yourselves and your farm. Tell us about the name, what all you have there, acreage, anything you want us to know.
So we are at Fox Hill Farm. We are a little bit north of Van Buren, Arkansas, kind of between Van Buren and Cedarville. We are on 21 acres here. Most of it is wooded, but what is it, 35 acres cleared?
Yeah, 5 acres cleared.
About 5 acres of it's cleared, and so that's kind of the part that we homestead on and have the garden and everything. We came up with Fox Hill Farm. Doug came up with it. So his last name, our last name, he's French, and so his last name means fox in French. And then we live on a hill, so Fox Hill Farm just kind of came out of that. Nothing crazy.
After we named it, we went with my last name, but then when we moved on the property, we ended up having a lot of fox that live on the farm.
Yeah.
And so we've had 5 or 6 in the backyard at one time, and so I think it just kind of fit.
Yeah.
It was meant to be. Yeah.
Yep. So we have layer chickens. We grow meat chickens, turkeys, and then we have hogs as well, and a garden and all that good stuff.
Very cool. So you mentioned that the other part of your place is wooded. Is that where you're running your pigs, or is that just kind of wooded for?
We actually did. We cut into the woods and fenced it off, so we let them kind of clear that section for us, and we're going to actually this winter expand that more into the woods.
Yeah.
So we can keep moving around as we're clearing it. We've got one section of the property we don't really use a whole lot, so we thought that'd be perfect, and we fenced off probably a 1/4 acre section, and they went in there and cleared it. Now it looks like it's nothing but dirt after this year, so we're going to do that all the way around until we get several pens built, then we can keep expanding.
When you say expanding, how big are you guys intending to go? Are you like
No,
not that big, but
no.
well, we started out with 5 hogs the first year, and we sold 3 of those to cover what the feed and everything for us. To actually, basically, we just got our food for free that way.
Yeah.
And then we got such a good response out of it, and everybody wanted repeat customers wanted to come back and get those 3, and then everybody else wanted them. So then we expanded to 10, and then we sold those really quickly. So I think every year we could probably add 5 and still sell everything we got.
That's great.
It's almost, they're sold basically the day I tell them I have them.
Yeah, and expand. We really like for them to, or we try and get them on pasture as much as we can. But right now we only have the one permanent pen, and they root that up, and it becomes dirt, and we have trouble trying to seed it before the next group comes in the next year. So expanding, we kind of just want to have more area so we can rotate them and let that grass grow back before they get back in the pens.
I figure 10 to 15 will be max for us for the year, just since we work full time. But we want to have enough pens, like you said, to rotate them.
All right, so you guys are on this 21 acres. Tell us why did you start homesteading? What was the reason to, because you still both work full-time jobs, and so why the homesteading lifestyle?
Can you take that?
Yeah.
So I grew up on a cattle farm when I was a kid. So I already had farming in my family. I went to the Army, retired from the Army, and then I went to work in the oil field, offshore oil. That's where I met her. She was an engineer for the oil company I worked for. I guess I just missed Arkansas. I lived in Louisiana, New Orleans area, and I talked her into leaving the oil company and coming to Arkansas.
Yeah.
And originally we didn't really plan on doing a homestead because we both had careers. We were looking at building a house in town, and we took a drive one day, and this place, they literally had put the sign out that day for sale, and it has a great view. And so she's like, "Oh, I love the view," and I think we made an offer the next day,
Yeah.
and bought it. And then as we moved, when we moved in here, she already been canning. We'd already started canning. We'd go around to farmers markets and get things, and she'd can.
Yeah.
So we already had that started. And then they had a garden here existing when we bought the place. They also had laying hens that they left when we bought the place. So we just kind of took over the smaller things that they already had started, and then it expanded on that. So the garden, we expanded the garden. It's probably 3 times as big as it was at the time. And then we've added more laying hens and bigger space for them. And it just kind of grew from there. I think we're like most people, they start with chickens.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then every year we tried to add something
Yeah.
to grow and learn.
Yeah, so I always grew up in the city, kind of going to the grocery store type deal. We never had a garden or anything. I think the parish that I grew up in, there was one cow pasture, so like we didn't even really have animals around us or anything. And then when I met him, I was living in an apartment, and he put a jalapeno plant and a cherry tomato plant on my balcony, and I was like, "What is this?" And then from there, you kind of just start getting into it. And like you said, we moved originally to Arkansas, and we had a bunch of neighbors who had gardens, and they knew that I was kind of starting to try and learn to can. One thing kind of leads to another, and I would come home and there would be boxes of peaches or boxes of tomatoes or something on the porch, and so I'd learn to can that way, and so I was just learning on people's extra produce and stuff, so it wasn't too bad. And then we'd start where when neighbors had extra of something and they wanted to preserve it if they didn't can themselves, they'd bring it over, and so I'd can it, and then we'd split it. They'd take half of it, we'd keep half of it. That's kind of before we really got a garden going.
Right.
And then, like you said, moved in here, and they already had chickens. And I think once you start one thing, you kind of start researching, and then you start reading food labels, and you start doing all this stuff, and it kind of spirals from
And
there.
then you watch
and,
YouTube where
Yeah.
there's so many, and that's you start watching YouTube and you see these people, oh, they work and they do it.
Yeah.
So why can't we? And for me, I'm kind of a weird prepper type guy, so I'm always looking at that side of it, and she's looking at the food preservation side of it, and I'm like, oh, we can have more food
Yeah.
to take care of us if something happens. So kind of just the combination, we just kept growing and getting more into it, and now I wish I didn't even work.
Same.
Yeah. It's just
I
a different kind of work for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who are some of the people on YouTube and things that y'all followed and learned from?
Oh my God, there's so many of them. I think Simple Living Alaska. I don't know if you've ever heard of that one or not.
Oh, yeah.
We started watching them. We started watching them when they moved from Oregon. We watched their trip from Oregon to Alaska, so we followed them. 1870s Homestead.
Yeah, More Than Farmers. I like to watch them every
Yeah.
Monday when they come out. They're
Yeah.
really good.
They're in Ohio. Yeah, More
Yeah.
Than Farmers. Really good. Really
Yeah.
good. They got a really good show.
Yeah, and then there's a lady just right down the road from us in Arkansas does Beginning Gardeners podcast and Beginning Gardeners Homestead or YouTube, and so we watch her a little bit. So a little bit of everything.
Yeah, the area we're in here has quite a few people that do homesteading. So it's like we get just across. Actually, if you can't see it, but just across there's a field and there's a farm there that they do dairy. And that's where we get all of our milk. So everybody around here kind of does something a little different. So there's nothing you can't get. You don't
Yeah.
really have to go to the store.
Right.
So it's a pretty neat area that we're in.
Okay. That's the really cool thing about homesteading. Somebody somewhere does
Yep.
everything you need, even
Yep.
if you don't. And everybody works on a barter system.
Yep.
I mean, that's like today, for example. We were falling trees, and I needed a feed barrel, and he needed help dropping trees. So
There you go.
That's the way to do it.
I told my wife one time I was at an event in northeast Arkansas somewhere. I'll think of it probably middle way through this, but I remember they wanted me to stay for an extra day to do something, but I didn't have a place to stay, and so I was doing a chicken processing class. And so at the end of it, I said, "Hey, I'm happy to take questions, but I've got to get on the phone and try to find a hotel to stay in tonight." And someone came up and said, "Hey, we have a place that you can stay." And I said, "Well, how much?" And they said, "What about a couple of chickens and a rabbit?" Because I brought meat to sell as well. So I called my wife and I said, "I am so country now. I just traded a room for 2 chickens and a rabbit."
Yeah.
Like that's a little house on the prairie. Just call me Paul Ingalls. That's what I felt
Yeah.
like. So
Yeah, that's great.
All right, so this week, what we're talking about is the skills that we think every homesteader should have, whether you have it going in or whether you learn it. And so we'd love to hear you guys' input. Because how long have you guys been on the property?
It's 18.
Yeah.
Since 2018.
Mhm.
So what are skills now that you've been doing this since 2018 that you think you're talking to a new homesteader like, hey guys, you really need to work on getting these skills?
You want to give yours?
Oh goodness, this is probably a long list. I think for us, the gardening, learning what to plant, when to plant it, how your soil should be, making sure your soil is the right type of soil for what you're planting. Because we've had tons of issues. So we have a really rocky ground, so we use raised beds. I think we have 25 raised beds.
Yeah.
And so we've had to learn a lot about soil, and what to grow and what will grow. And I think that's been a very difficult uphill for us
Yeah.
because of the type of property. I think if we had to do over and we knew we were going to do homesteading, we might not have bought this property because it sits on top of a rock.
Yeah.
And so it's a very difficult property to do anything with, whether it's fence post or tilling the garden. I mean, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
We have enough rocks to build a city.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be one thing, is that, and learning to butcher. But I'll save that for one of my skills. Is that what we're talking about? Skills?
skills.
Yeah. So learning to butcher your animals yourself, dispatch them and butcher them yourself. Before we were doing that, we were paying somebody to do it, and we've started doing it ourselves now, and we realize that it's way better and cheaper. So that's one skill, and I think for her it'd be canning.
Yeah. So I think if I had to pick three, it'd be food, and I'll kind of go into that in a second, and then kind of basic handyman skills, because you'll definitely need that around a homestead. And then this doesn't really sound like a skill, but something I've personally had to learn is kind of how to fail, for sure. But as far as food, I think just kind of gardening, preserving, or however
Yeah.
you want to do food. If you're wanting to do animal husbandry, kind of learn that. If you're wanting to do gardening, preserving, we don't really forage. That's not something we've learned, but if you want to forage, learn that skill. But just somehow how to get your own food, how to deal with your own food.
We
would
probably
be
should learn
one.
that.
Yeah. And then just having basic handyman skills. I mean, you don't have to build a great structure, but if you could nail two boards together or kind of know what's going to hold up, just troubleshooting electrical, troubleshooting plumbing, even if you're not going to plumb your house yourself or install your own septic, if you can at least troubleshoot some of that stuff, that is extremely helpful when you're doing
Yes,
homesteading.
we've built just about everything that we have ourselves,
Yeah.
and so we've learned a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was a farmer, not a carpenter. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if I could build something square, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Totally understand that.
But we've learned a lot, and I think that she nailed it when she's talking about the skills. The handyman skills is a big deal.
Yeah.
Because we've so much infrastructure that you have to build that goes along with this.
Yeah.
To make sure, especially if you got hogs, if you don't have a good fence or proper structure for them, they'll get right out of that.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of things you need to learn on that side. That's a good one.
I think the biggest one for me has been learning how to fail. Like I said, I've got the type of personality that if I don't think I'm going to be good at something, I just won't do it. Like, I don't want to fail. I don't like to do something wrong. I don't that really bothers me if I do something wrong. And this lifestyle has really taught me that it's okay. Like, if you try to do something, you try to grow something, it doesn't work, it's okay to kind of back up, take a step back, figure it out, try something different.
I think you just got discouraged, but she's moved on from that
Yeah.
now. I think we're opposite in that, because I'm just like, oh well, it didn't work, I'll do something different.
Yeah. Yeah, he already had that skill, but for me, that was definitely a skill to learn, was failure.
So I love how she said he already had the skill of failing, so that wasn't a problem.
I mean, I've done it a lot.
That's not how I meant it.
Well, and look, I'm no therapist or psychologist, but just knowing your backgrounds now and knowing one is the engineer that doesn't have a lot of room for mistake, right? Like, you figure out problems so there is no failure. And a farmer growing up on a farm, it's all about just finding new creative ways to do things, because you're gonna have failure. And so, I mean, I just think it makes sense with what your background is.
Yeah. Because like you said, learning how to fail is the huge part of it. I got goats, and then it was 18 hours afterwards. They busted this little quick makeshift pen that we had thrown together apart, and then we didn't have goats. So it all of 18 hours. It was a
Yeah.
great time.
I,
Yeah.
I
But you
think
learned a lot, right?
Oh
I
yeah.
think that's one thing though that we have maybe done right is because when we decided to get hogs, we decided and then we spent 6 months preparing. We didn't just go get the hogs. So we made sure we knew where we wanted to put it. We put up all the fencing, we put up all the electric, we built shelters for them. We had all the water barrels. We had everything already in place when we got them. So I think that was definitely the move that you should have made. I see too many people that just go out and went on the whim and grab a hog, and then they got to figure out where they're going to put it
Yeah.
or how they're going to secure them. And so I think that was the one thing that we did is we always pre-plan. I think that's where she comes into that because if it was me,
He would just go get
I
them.
just pick it up and show up one day and say, look what I got.
Yeah.
But she pre-plans everything, and it really works out.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big plus for us.
I know that when we talk to other people and we ask them the question, what's one thing that you wish you had done differently? Over and over, it's I wish we had not done everything so quickly. Like I wish we had waited to get pigs till we were ready. Or, we talked to one couple that had emus.
Yeah.
And they
Oh, yeah, we watched that video. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, it's just nuts, and I don't even know if that made the video or not. But like, they lived in their trailer with them for a while. Like it was crazy
While
because they
were
weren't
building their
ready.
house.
That's
Yeah.
the ones that picked them up in a car, and it had like 4 or 5 of them in a car.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Crazy. So anyway, just but that's good on y'all with the pig thing. I was probably the opposite. I went and got pigs because I found a great deal on them, and so I went and picked my first feeders up. And luckily, I think everything that was gonna happen as far as what I was gonna build was already here, but I just hadn't all put it together. So
Yeah, I was the same way. I started like a lot of people. I got chickens, which are the gateway homestead drug.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
soon as you get chickens, you're hooked by then.
Yep.
And I got a phone call from my mom who was like, "Hey, this lady's got goats. I'm gonna buy you two. You got to pick them up today." So that was fun. And then he did the same thing with pigs. Like a couple of months after that, yeah, it was just, "Hey, got you a sweet deal on pigs. It's got to be like this weekend, and here you go. This is your time. You got 4 days to get something ready."
Oh, good.
Yeah, we've tried to plan. That's really the only way we can do it with the hours that we have, and we've got to make sure that they're secured. I don't have to worry about it when I'm gone from the house.
Right.
yeah.
And so that was a big deal. And we plan on moving on. Right now, we've been doing piglets, but we do plan on actually raising our own. I don't know, maybe next year. We've talked about it already. So
Yeah, we had some bad luck with some of
Yeah.
the piglets we got this year, so it kind of
Yeah,
made
they
us
were
want to
little
have a little
sickly.
more control over that.
Yeah. So we want to make sure that we know where it's coming from, and so if we are raising them right here, we have ultimate control over it.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that'll be one of our next moves.
So let's talk a little bit about this idea of you mentioned we want everything good so while you're away. So what is y'all's time on off farm because of your jobs? I mean, are we talking 40 hours a week, but you're home every day, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we both work a 40-hour week, typically 7 to 4-ish or so. Is a normal Monday through Friday normal schedule, but we both work jobs that we can be called out. So we've had times on the weekends where we're in the middle of canning or something. I've got the crock pot going and the canner going and everything, and then we get a phone call and have to leave. So we kind of make sure everything's set up that we're home. We're usually home at night and on the weekends, but we can be gone at any time if we need to be.
We do have, like for the hogs, we bought the large feeders, the 2,000-pound feeders. I found one of those really nice 2,000-pound feeders. They're usually about $3,500. I got it for $300 in Kansas, and I drove up there and picked it up. And so I was like, one of the best things I ever bought because we can buy 2,000-pound bags of feed and just drop them in the top, and that lasts them 3 weeks, 4 weeks. So that was a savior there for us for sure, because the first year we fed them every day, and so that was the biggest thing, is trying to figure out how to balance that and be here all the time, because we do travel a couple of times a year too for her family. We go visit her family, so we want to make sure that we had a way of taking care of them. So we have 55-gallon drums of water that's out there that's got the nipples on them, and we have several of those, so we could leave for 2 weeks and not have to worry about them. We have cameras too that we can see the animals. That way, if we are gone, we can kind of check on them and see if the feed's levels. And her brother lives really close, So if anything gets low, we can call him and he'll run down here and top it off for us. So that's kind of how we control that. It's been help having him close.
Okay. I did want to ask you. You were talking about like your ground quality and having raised beds everywhere. Uh, how much of a learning experience? How fun has that been? Besides not being able to till and having to bring everything in and get set up.
So in the garden, the way we're set up, we have one side of the garden is all raised beds, and we started with just a couple, or I think we maybe did 5 or 10 the first year, and then we just add to it as we can, because it's costly to fill them and build them and all that stuff. So just as we can, we do it. But the first year we tried the in-ground, and we still do half of our garden is in-ground, so we'll try and do some stuff in-ground, stuff that isn't squash that kind of grows everywhere, you know. But
the people before us, they had tilled that spot
yeah,
prior to us moving here, so that every time you till it though, it's like rocks coming up, and every
Yeah.
time it rains, there's rocks on top of the soil. So it's apparently there's rocks a million feet deep
Yeah.
because every time I do something, there's more rocks.
yeah,
But we have managed to get it to where the soil depth is probably 12 inches to 18 inches, but it still has some rocks in it, so the growth is not great yet. I think if we just continue, we've been trying to like get rid of many of the rocks as we could over the years, and it's getting better every year.
yeah. The learning curve going to raised beds, though, I think was a lot easier than trying to deal with the ground for us personally.
I think one thing that helped us though is we actually, when we built the raised beds, we, instead of mixing the dirt ourselves, we actually bought the dirt that was pre-mixed, which helped us, because if we'd had to do it ourselves, I think we'd had more problems.
More struggle, yeah.
It'd be more of a struggle, but it was one of those things we decided to splurge on because the time frame and how much we needed. Because we built so many raised beds, then we tried to figure out, well, we got to fill these up.
Yeah.
And it takes quite a bit to fill up one 4x8 raised bed. You don't really think
I was about to ask what size bed you have. They're all
they're 4x8 and they're all a foot deep.
Okay.
And that's worked out for us. So
Yeah.
we've grown everything in those beds and they just grow great.
We have a couple bigger ones, or we have some smaller ones that we have 2 foot wide with arch trellises between them. And then we have, I think, a 25-foot, probably 4 foot deep one that we grow peanuts in. So we do have some special, but most of them are 4x8.
We do have some fruit trees too as part of the, we have apple trees,
Muscadine vines.
muscadines, and we've recently planted like peaches, pears, nectarines, and then some plums. So those are not producing yet, but we just put those out, I think, last year. So we've got fruit trees that are all over the place now.
I think the hardest thing for me to learn about the raised beds was spacing. I had trouble with spacing in the beginning. I read all this stuff online, and you have to space your plants 1,000,000 feet apart. And so the first couple of years I did raised beds, I had everything spaced out so far that we just weren't maximizing what we could do. So the last couple of years I've kind of played around with that and gotten it to where we can produce more in the smaller area.
Now we're getting quite a bit.
Yeah.
I know one of the things you mentioned in one of our messages back and forth was that y'all were going to venture into doing meat chickens and turkeys this year.
Yes.
So how has that gone or is going?
So we're finished. They're in freezer camp now. That went really well, actually.
Yeah, the meat chickens, we had a learning curve with the meat chickens because me not being a carpenter, I built the chicken tractor extremely too heavy.
Yeah.
So it would not blow away if we had a tornado, I don't think.
Yeah, we can only move it with the tractor.
I can only move it with the tractor, so.
I'm actually looking at pictures of it right now from your Instagram, and it is quite the structure.
Yeah.
Look at all those 2x4 rafters there. I was like, "Ooh."
It's big. So we can only move it with the tractor. So we had to. We're gonna redo another one that's a little bit lighter.
Yeah, I figured that out now. So I mean, it worked out because we have a backhoe in our tractor. So I would use the backhoe and pick it up the front and just move it real slow.
And how many birds did y'all run?
35 this year.
35.
We just did 35. We wanted to kind of try it first because it's the first time, and they ended up being great actually. Those some of the best birds I've had.
We had I guess not trouble. They ended up super big because we didn't take their feed away at night. I guess most people take their feed away at night.
Yeah, so we learned that too.
Did not realize that. So they were giant.
I think our average was 9 pounds.
Yeah, 9-10 pound chickens.
Yeah.
So
we got little turkeys.
We got little turkeys. And we were super worried about the butchering process, and watched 1 million hours worth of YouTube videos
I
on
watched so
that.
many, I almost forgot how to do it, you know, because
Yeah.
everybody does it a little different. And so I'm trying to remember everything. And
Yeah, but it went really well.
Yeah.
After the first couple, you kind of
Yeah.
get a little rhythm going, and
we split everything up where I did one thing and she did one thing. And by the end of it, we were really knocking them out.
Yeah.
So, and then
Did y'all have a plucker or did you hand pluck?
No, we
bought a plucker.
we bought a plucker.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a game changer.
It's no doubt. And I'll tell you, we've done meat chickens for 3 years now, and running a couple of hundred birds, you know, over that time since then. But that first group, we did the same thing. We free fed, and we had that average 9-pound chicken. And then we looked at how, because you know they eat so stinking much,
Yeah.
and you look at how much you got into it, and you got nearly $17 a bird
Yeah.
in it by the time.
Oh yeah, yeah. I calculated it, and I think we were like $22, $23
Yeah,
a
it was
bird in or
ridiculous.
something, because we let them go a week longer.
Yeah,
we
well,
weren't. We had some family coming in, and so we planned it
Yeah.
for. We should have harvested them earlier as well.
It is a learning curve, but golly, it's and boy, y'all did Cornish? Did y'all do Cornish crosses? Yeah.
And luckily we have a hatchery literally
5 minutes. Up
5
the
minutes
road.
from here.
Oh, that
So we
is
can
so
pick them
lucky.
up. Yeah.
So we can just call them, they box them up and we pick them up. So it's
What's the name of the hatchery you use?
Natural Dam Hatchery.
Yeah, Natural Dam Hatchery.
Yeah, you can do pickup there. It's really easy. You just order them ahead of
Yeah.
time, and they're 5 minutes on the road
They're-
from us. So I think that we didn't really have. I think we only lost one,
Mhm.
and so I think a lot of that was not shipping them, and everything really helped out.
Y'all mentioned are you still running turkeys or?
We dispatched them 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, so we started with 6 this year. So first year doing turkeys, so we didn't want to get too many. We started with 6, and we did them 12 weeks, I think. And so we just processed them a couple weeks ago.
I think our smallest was about 18 pounds and
Yeah.
then 22
Yeah.
was the biggest.
Turkey.
So yeah,
Decent turkey, yes.
Yeah.
they turned out, we learned some things.
We were also free feeding the turkeys too.
Yeah.
This is all the same.
yeah, we just putting feed in there and going to work and letting them eat.
Yeah.
So I mean we learned a
What
lot. We'd like to have more room next year for the turkeys than what we had.
Yeah.
We put them in one of because we got a couple of chicken runs and coops. So we put them we took the chickens and moved them all into one and then put them in one of the old chicken coops.
Well, it has a big run.
It's got a big
but
run, but it wasn't big enough.
Yeah, we want to get them.
I don't
We
think
want to put them out on pasture with the fencing.
I don't think we realized how big they're going to get that quickly.
What breed did y'all get?
What's the white ones? Broad-breasted
Yeah,
white.
yeah, we just picked those up at Tractor
Yeah.
Supply.
Oh,
We
okay.
were already getting the meat
Yeah.
chickens, so we said, well, might as well just learn it all at
I
once.
I think that we literally did that one on a whim kind of because we
Yeah.
were in Tractor Supply and we didn't even know that they had turkeys. We looked
Yeah.
down and there was turkeys there and I was like, and they have that where you have to buy 6.
Yeah.
You just buy 4, which we originally wanted to do like 4.
Yeah.
And they said, we got to have 6. I was like, oh, we'll just take 6
Okay.
then. So that's how that happened. And then but they turned out really good. Yeah. So,
Okay. So we're coming up in 2026 or wider plans. Is there anything different you guys want to do, or like a different animal you want to try processing and putting through? Or I mean, what are the plans for Fox Hill Farms for the future?
So like you said, I'm a planner. So every year we try and do one animal, one new plant or one new garden thing to grow, and then like one new skill to learn. So I don't think we're fixed in on what we're going to do 2026, but I think it's between goats or honeybees. So we'll kind of decide this winter which one we want to try out next year, and then get ready for getting those in the spring.
we have space for goats.
Yeah.
We're not utilizing near all of even the 5 acres, so we've got one whole section over on the side that we're not even using. So we're trying to figure out what we're going to do because we're also wanting to raise our own hogs instead of just buying feeders. So we'll have to learn to balance those two if we're going to do 2 things. It'd be almost like doing 2 things in 1 year.
Yeah.
But I think that, deciding on the animal, be goats or bees.
Yeah.
Just because we really want bees for pollination and the honey, obviously, but we have a pretty large garden and I think it will really help.
Are y'all looking at meat goats or are you looking at dairy goats?
Probably be meat goats just
Meat
because the milking times, because you really have to stay on that. And so I don't want to, with our work, you know, we could get called in, she could get called in.
Yeah.
I work for a communications company, so we almost do the same thing. Hers is electric, mine's communication. So we actually work together, our companies do, so we could be called out at the same time all the time. So um, it, I think, yeah, I think probably goats would be the next thing for me.
Yeah.
Um, just
I
jump
think
right
that-
in.
I think it's really cool where you were talking about doing bees. Super interested in apiaries and doing it. I'm having a hard time pulling the trigger. My son's allergic to bees, and my wife's allergic to the outdoors. So she keeps telling me, no, we can do it. It's fine. It's just going to be you doing it, and we'll be over here from a distance waving, and you'll see it. It's okay.
Well, I think that too is bees are they're kind of scary to start.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It
Yeah.
just and we've watched it. We actually worked with a friend of ours that he does honeybees. He's got a YouTube channel, and he's really good. He's really good. He's big though. He does. I don't know. I mean, he's got 100 boxes probably. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's got a lot.
But we've followed him a lot and watched it, and we think, man, that's not too bad. And then we never can talk ourselves into it. So
Right.
it's crazy. You think you'd do a hog over a bee, but
Yeah.
I think hogs have turned out to me to be the easiest thing we've done.
You're not lying. I was going to say, if I can talk you out of putting goats, I will. Because my wife deals with the goats because I hate the goats. Like we have dairy goats too, and we did meat goats in Texas, and I can't count the number of times I would be somewhere in town and my neighbor would call and say your goats are out again, and it's just they're not as much fun as you would think. They're cute as all get out. Hardly anything cuter than a baby goat, but whoa, yeah.
That's what I've heard a lot. Is their trouble?
Yeah, everybody tells us that, and I think that's probably the reason we've not done them yet. Is just because I mean we've been here for several years and still haven't done goats, just because we talk about it and people give us horror stories, then we move on to something else.
It's a headache with 4 hoofs. That's all it is.
Yeah.
I will say that at least if you're doing meat goats and you're really genuinely going to raise them for meat, at least there's a purpose. I think a lot of people that I've taught to get them with the idea of just land clearing and just kind of continuing to use them as work animals on the farm, which I get. Like if you got a lot of acreage to clear, whatever. But at least the dairy aspect is helpful because I'll be honest, I love their milk. I hate them, but I love their milk. And it is really fun. We have many Nubians, and so it's a really phenomenal tasting milk. But yeah, if it was me, not that you asked for a vote, I would go with the bees.
Yeah.
We'll take that. I think bees are a good idea.
All right, so we'll go ahead and kind of hone in on wrapping this up. We don't want to miss anything if you thought of another skill that you want to share, but also tell everyone where they can keep up with you, whether it's through social media or let's say someone has a question about something they've heard you mention, whether it's the raised beds or the canning. How can they best get in contact with you guys?
Yeah. So we have an Instagram. It's Fox Hill Farm AR, like Arkansas. So
Underscore AR. Yeah.
So Fox Hill Farm underscore AR. And that's pretty much the only social media we use. We don't do too much. I really started it. My family all lives out of town. So we started it just for them to keep up. They think our life is wild. Like I said, we grew up in the city. So they like to pay attention and watch what we're doing. So we're not on there all the time, but we check it and we post some stuff from time to time. So if anybody has any questions or wants to reach out or come by or anything, they can get in touch with us there.
I told her she should start a YouTube. She's got a really good speaking voice. So
I think both of y'all can start a YouTube. And I will vouch for y'all's Instagram. Phenomenal pictures. And it makes it look, in fact, just to be completely blunt, when I first reached out to you guys, the first response that I got was, I think Instagram has fooled you. Like it was, I think you think we're something we're actually not. But then once you shared the story, I was like, that's exactly what we want is people who are doing this on a small scale. We don't mind large scale, but a small scale and making it work in the midst of your jobs and whatever else, the people that are raising their children doing it, like all that stuff.
Because I mean, we're the same way. We both hold down a job, and I think the idea of homesteading is lost on so many people because they're like, well, I can't be at the house, at the homestead, on the farm constantly. I don't have the time to do this. And it's not. There's so much you can do passively that people don't really look into, and it's super manageable if they did.
There's so many YouTube videos of people that do this full time and don't work.
Exactly.
That's all you see, and you think, man, look how much they're getting done. because that's what she's always saying is, man, imagine what we get done if we're not working.
Yeah.
I was
Oh,
like,
that's-
because we get, I feel like we get a lot done when we work.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think homesteading, you're right. This is more people should look at the people that are working full time and doing it.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee the learning is a lot different than the person that's here all day long.
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
it's important to know that you don't have to do it all. Like,
Right.
if you don't want any animals, you can just have a garden. If you don't want a garden at all, you just want to have rabbits, just have whatever it is. Just, you don't have to see somebody's Instagram and think you have to do everything that they're doing. Just pick one thing and start there.
Even small, it's really just the food that's the difference, for us.
Yeah.
That's one reason we do what we do is because it's so much better. Food from the grocery store, it's hard to even eat anymore. I don't know. I just can't, especially chickens and eggs, and I just can't. I just don't like the taste of any of it. So the growing the stuff ourselves works for me.
Absolutely. Well, guys, we certainly appreciate you joining us here on Arkansas Homesteading Podcast, and we look forward to keeping in contact with you, and maybe we can have you back on the show again sometime.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thanks.
All right, y'all, take care.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Arkansas Homesteading Podcast. We thank you so much for joining us. If you have got a skill that you think we may have left out, please consider putting it in the comments below. We'd love to hear your take on this topic.
Absolutely. And if you'd like to reach out to us, maybe you'd like to be in an interview, maybe you have some questions yourself, you can find our link tree. It's got links to our personal pages. It's also got a link to our email address where you can request to be on the show, or you can email your questions in there.
We've got some great episodes already ready to be recorded. We're excited about those coming up as we interview more people in this state that are homesteading in the natural state, the natural way.